Another day is dawning, a new song on the air. A brand new hope is forming, adventure take me there.
Hey everybody, and welcome to my taster lesson for Lifebook 2023. My name is Andrea Gomoll. I'm a mixed media and watercolor artist from Berlin, Germany. Since I've been part of the teacher lineup for quite a few years now, for Lifebook and several other of Tam's wonderful classes, I assume quite a few of you know me already. However, for those of you who don't know me yet, maybe a little bit of information about me. Again, I'm from Germany. I'm living here with my husband and 3 crazy cats. So we are living in a very close to the capital of Germany, very close to Berlin, and that's where I live and work. And I'm an artist, a watercolor mixed media artist, and illustrator. Mostly I'm focused on painting mixed media pieces, colorful, whimsical, playful mixed media pieces, art journal pages, and watercolors with and with my personal twist. I just love to kind of mix and mingle different types of media, and what I love is sharing my joy and my passion for art and the joy it brings to my life with others, with you, through my online classes and through other products that I have on the market, like my book Watercolor Magic, or my Oracle card deck, and stamps, and several other things. So if you want to learn more about me, you can check out my website, Andrea-Gomoll.de, or you can follow me on Instagram, Creative Creations, and I would love to see you there. Today in my taster lesson, I would like to share something with you, a piece of art that we will create together, kind of based on or inspired by another topic that is very close to my heart. If you know me, and if you've been following me for a while, you probably know that I'm also like a very spiritual person, and I'm really into spirituality and different things, working with crystals and working with herbs, and also working with the moon and the moon phases. A lot of the things that I do is kind of based on or planned around the different moon phases, because the different moon phases, they hold a very special, unique energy. And you've probably heard about that, maybe even if you're not into these type of things, but I guess almost everybody has at least heard about it, that certain times are especially good for doing certain things because of the energy this phase of the moon holds. Like, for example, I still remember when I was a little kid, my grandma, she really did this moon thing, and everything she did was kind of based on the moon phases. And I still remember that she always had like a special phase for when to cut your hair, and for the gardening, for the planting, for cutting back the plants in the garden. There's a special moon phase for everything. And I remember she even based a surgery that she had based on the moon phase, a good moon phase for healing. You might base your life on the moon phases more or less. However, you can't deny, and it is even scientifically proven, that the moon and the different moon phases, they have a kind of influence on us, on our energy field, on our energy, on how we feel, and on how productive we are. Right? And you might know that, for example, with a full moon, you might have a hard time sleeping at night. So there are different things the menstrual cycle of the woman can be like in tune with the moon. And there are many, many, many different things that are connected to the moon cycles. And that's such a deep field and such an interesting field to do some research about. And the different moon phases, they hold a feminine or a masculine energy. So it's kind of always a back and forth between an outgoing energy and a distracting energy, an inwards facing energy. Yeah, and of course I could talk about this for 4 hours, but I want to keep it short because this lesson is supposed to be like fast and easy for you to do. So I don't want to go like too deep and too much into detail. However, this is the piece that we will be creating together, the different moon phases. And you will learn a little bit about the different moon phases, just some keywords that will give you a good starting point on which phase of the moon is good for what type of activity, and which moon phase kind of holds what type of energy, right? So you can add this to your piece of work or to your journal if you like, if you want to do this more of like an informational page, an informational journal page, or you can just stick with the artwork. We'll do some watercolor moon painting here and galaxy painting. So whichever way you want to do this, it is totally fine. Informational journal page or just the artwork. It really depends on what it is that you are interested in, and that's what we will do together. I can't wait to dive in with you. I had so much fun doing this, and I hope you will enjoy this as well. Enjoy the art process as well as to learn a little bit more about the different moon phases, and maybe you will have the one or the other aha moment reading the information, and maybe in the future some things make a little more sense about how you feel in a certain phase. And I also have another download for you, a free gift, where you can download the moon calendar for the next year, for 2023. You can print that and put it up on your wall, or resize it and put it into your pocket or your purse or whatever. Just add it to your mobile phone to have it handy to check the moon phases. And you might want to track that a little to see how the moon kind of has an influence on you and on your well-being and on your energy, right? It's a rabbit hole, but it's super, super interesting. So I think without further ado, let's jump right in. Let's get started. And I hope you will enjoy it. You will have fun. So let's get started. And here she is again. Surprise, surprise. I somehow totally forgot the questions that Tam gave us that we were supposed to answer for you. So I will have to chime back in. Because of course I want to share my answers with you. Question number 1 is, how does creativity support your growth and well-being? And if you know me, if you know how I describe myself in the world of artists, you know that for me, making art, the creative process, definitely is a way of integrating well-being practices, self-care practices into your life. Because for me, the process of creating something, no matter if it's like painting, drawing, journaling, sketching, or even something completely different creative, like, I don't know, pottery or knitting or whatever it is that you do, a creative process for me is sacred me time. It is a time that I allow myself to take out of the busy everyday life, out of the corporate world, and I can just spend some time with myself doing what I enjoy and doing what I love. And for me, the creative process, it absolutely it fuels my body and my soul. It gives me energy that I lose during the day, during everyday life. because in my art and in the creative process, everything is allowed. There are no rules. There's nobody telling me what is right and what is wrong. There is no pressure except for the pressure that we maybe put on ourselves, right? But other than that, it's just everything goes, everything is allowed. It is a sacred me time. It is it is, for me, it is a mindfulness practice. You're just here in the here and now, and you spend the time bringing something to life on paper or in whichever form you want. And for me, that's actually, it's magical, and it's just so fulfilling, and it totally adds to my life. It adds such a positive aspect to my life that I don't want to miss in my life anymore. And I feel it whenever I don't find time to create something. It doesn't need to be like a big project. It can be some sketching, some journaling, some writing, whatever it is. And I totally miss it in my life whenever I spend a couple of days where I don't find time to do this or to do some creative work. It is just playtime. It is me time. It is a time to nurture my inner child and also to nurture my inner creatrix. There are many different parts that the creative process kind of supports for me. So definitely art and the creative process totally is a tool for health and for well-being. So question number 2 is, what is most important to you as an artist? And for me as an artist, the most important thing is that I enjoy what I do and that it adds a positive aspect to my life. Because if this wouldn't be the case, I would totally not make any art. So for me, this is the most important thing, as well as that I allow myself as an artist to continue to play, to continue to grow, to continue to go into different directions, to allow myself to go into different directions. Because as an artist, or most people who create something, we strive so hard to reach the point where we have our own style, and then this style that we found, it might be set in stone and we don't dare to move left or move right. But for me, I realized some years ago already that this, for me, is a thief of joy and a thief of passion in art. So I learned, for me, it is super important as an artist to allow myself to branch out into different directions and to always try something new, even though it might not be my style, but you can like transfer and make it your style or make it part of your style. So this keeping it fresh, this playing is super important for me as an artist. And another thing that's important for me is to kind of reach people with what I do. Of course, like if you're standing on the stage, or if you're an artist, if you create something that is meant for an audience in one way or another, you want to reach people, you want to tell a story with what you do, and you want to make a little bit of a difference in other people's lives. And that's actually the reason why I teach art classes. Because for me, it is so fulfilling to share this passion and this joy that I find myself as an artist, and to share this with others, and to inspire others to do the same and to experience the same, and to enable others, to show them that they can do it. They are creative. You are creative. And there's so many people who think they are not creative, and I love to share that message and to teach them, to show them they are creative. We are all creative. And for me, that is super important as an artist, to be able to make a difference in other people's lives. Even it might be, no matter how small the difference is, somebody sending me a message, I wouldn't expect, I didn't thought I could do this, and I'm so excited that I can do this, and I'm so excited that I see myself growing as an artist, learning new things. That is so fulfilling for me. So I guess that's also super, super important for me as an artist, to share that message and that joy of making art. Then question number 3, as an artist, what is your biggest struggle and how do you deal with it? I guess it is still the same answer that I would have given like 5 years ago. Struggle number 1, the inner critic. It is always there. it never goes away. It might be more present in some days, on some days, and less present on other days, but the inner critic is always there. So that's of course a little bit of a struggle, even though I can learn to make friends with that inner critic and to see the inner critic as something that kind of pushes me further, that pushes me to get better and to grow instead of allowing it to pull me down. But definitely that inner critic, that little voice that's kind of sometimes popping up telling you like, you're not good enough, you're not as good as X, Y, that. It is always there. And I guess no matter what stage you are at, it will always be there. Yeah, because we always tend to strive for something bigger, something different. And no matter what stage we are at, we always look up to others who are like, who we see them like on a higher level of experience. They're better, they are more, right? And we always want to reach that, which is a good thing, but don't allow this to pull you down, to stop you, because you maybe like tell yourself, I will never be as good as X, Y, that. But just take that inner critic as a positive thing, pushing you to be as good, or maybe even better as X, Y, that. So that's helpful. Then we have another question. What specific skill, new or existing, would you like to develop more? I don't know, I'm constantly developing new skills and trying new things. Right now it is watercolor nature painting in a more realistic style, in a more realistic way. That's what I'm currently into, and that's what I'm currently practicing and learning to get better at, because so far also my nature drawings and sketches and paintings have been more or less playful and stylized, which I totally love and enjoy. But lately I'm really digging the more realistic nature painting style, watercolor, and that's what I'm currently trying to get better at and learning. And I think it's important to always find something new that inspires you and that's kind of making you all giddy with excitement that you want to learn. And yeah, right now for me that's nature watercolor. And then last but not least, what do you want beginner artists who are struggling to know? Yeah, actually this is kind of connected to the answer before this one. Don't allow the inner critic to pull you down. See the inner critic as a friend. Make friend with it. See it as a friend who's helping you to grow and helping you to get better. So that's definitely one thing that I keep telling people that's so important. Don't let it stop you. Don't let that inner voice stop you. As well as stop to compare yourself to others, because I already mentioned that we always compare ourselves to others who are on a completely different path, on a completely different level, who maybe started years ago. You just can't compare. It's like comparing apples to pears. That's a German idiom, a German saying, comparing apples to pears. You can't actually compare them. They're both fruits, but you can't compare them. And that's the same with you, your point, where you are at as an artist and others. We all have our different individual paths, and we all have like individual time that we can put into practicing, put into making art. So stop comparing. It is always, of course, nowadays with social media, we are constantly looking at art and other people's work, and we are constantly like comparing ourselves in a conscious or subconscious way. But again, same as the inner critic, try to see this as something that pushes you further, that helps you to grow instead of like allowing it to pull you down. I guess those two things are important things that I would want beginner artists who struggle to know. So that was it, and now definitely let's jump into the actual art lesson and let's have some fun. Okay, so let's get started. We will start on a sheet of heavyweight watercolor paper, just a size of your choice that is kind of matching your liking, depending if you want to hang it up on the wall, matching a frame size, or if you want to put it in your journal. And we will start by preparing a fun, like, galaxy style background. And what you will need is you will need some watercolors. I'm going to work with my watercolors that I have here in my pen. Those are basically all Daniel Smith, as well as some Van Gogh and Schminke watercolors, but for a juicier, a more saturated background, I prefer adding a little bit of the watercolor right out of the tube onto my palette here. So I will just grab several colors that I would like to work with. This is like the Schminke Horredam Deep Sea Violet, which is a beautiful, like, granulating color, perfect for backgrounds like that. Then as well as the Galaxy Black. But again, of course, pick any colors that you have. Just beautiful mixes of blue, dark blue, indigo, shades of purple, maybe a little bit of black. I have the Galaxy Pink here as well. So again, there's actually no right or wrong. You just want to go a little bit darker, so that the white of the moon phases will kind of stand out afterwards. I have another watercolor here, Supervision, which is also a beautiful, like, granulating color, like that. What's that? Dusk Violet. I think we should be good with that. Yeah, and what I will do is you can tape down your paper if that's what you want. You can just tape it down onto a surface here. I'm not going to do this because I really I like to have, like, the ability to kind of tilt my piece and have the colors to kind of flow into different directions, and I don't mind a little bit of bending and warping of the paper. But of course you could tape it down if that's what you want. And then you want to grab a spritzer bottle with some clear water, and I will just go ahead and softly wet the surface of the paper. You want, like, a nice even coat of water on here, some little like puddles, but not like large puddles. So just like the perfect amount. But again, you can't go really wrong with that stage or at that stage. And then I will just grab my round tip brush here, size 8. Then I will just start by activating the colors on my palette here. If you want to, you could do some color swatches first, but I will just jump right in. I know that right here in the center I want to go with a little bit of, like, a pink. You just really dab it on, right? Adding some more water, really allowing the colors to kind of blend and move around. Checking out that indigo, blue, and this is quite dark, so we kind of want the darker colors along the outline. So for now it is just me checking out the different colors, and then I'll just take it from there. A little bit of that beautiful imperial purple. Yeah, and that blue, we already had that. Okay, so I will just start with a bit of more of that pink here, just dabbing it on, adding more water. It's just important that you just dab it on. You don't want to, like, brush it on, right? Because we kind of want this texture. and this organic pattern that the watercolors kind of form on the paper. And then with a clear wet brush, I just continue to add more water to allow the colors to kind of blend. And then I will just start with that blue here, adding some of it in different places. So for now, really just have fun with it. Don't overthink. There's actually no wrong way to do this. You can also add a bit more water if you like with a spritzer bottle. This will allow the colors to kind of run a little bit more. And you could also slightly tilt it into one or more directions. Have a bit of that flow, also giving you a beautiful effect. But you don't want to blend the colors like too much. If you kind of have the feeling like you kind of lose that beautiful pattern on here, then you just stop. We're gonna allow it to dry, then we'll come back with another layer. Okay, I will just stop here at that point, and then we will come back because we will kind of build up the darkness with individual layers. Okay, so once this first layer is dry, you can really see the beautiful texture that formed on here because of all of the granulating watercolors. I will just go ahead and do the same thing. If the colors on your palette dried up on you, it's no problem, you can easily reactivate them. And yeah, then I'm gonna go ahead, add another layer of water. And this time I'm kind of working in smaller areas, so I'm kind of wetting that upper area here. And I just kind of want to layer another layer on top of the first layer, so adding another layer of glaze. However, I still want to allow areas of the underneath layer to peek through, because this kind of building up the different layers of color will give you that beautiful depth in the painting in the end. And again, I'm just kind of dabbing the color in, allowing it to kind of move around. And I think right here in the center, I want a bit of a more vibrant, juicy, pinkish color. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab another color. And I think I might want to work with the Rhodonite Genuine, or maybe even the Opera Pink, which is a quite juicy pink tone. Just grabbing a bit out of my palette here, and then I will just go ahead and dab that in, just a tiny bit. Don't want to overdo it with the bright pink, but I just thought it could use a bit more vibrancy just in some areas. And then I will just continue down here, adding more darkness, layering that up.
Another day is dawning, a new song on the air. A brand new hope is forming, adventure take me there.
And again, I could slightly tilt this if I want to create a bit of a running effect here. This kind of brings a little bit of movement and motion into one direction into the game, which is always fun as well. And another thing that I want to do while this is still damp, while the paper is still damp, is I will go ahead and grab some special effect colors, like some silver for example, or some gold. And I think I will go with some silver here. So this sterling silver is very beautiful. So this will add a bit of shimmer and sparkle. I'm just dabbing it in, basically into the lighter areas, also allowing it to blend. You won't see a lot on camera now. This will not make like a big difference on camera. However, in real life, if you're holding this in your hand, you will see like a really beautiful like shimmer effect that is kind of added to the project, which is always, yeah, I think just a nice additional touch. Also gonna add some spritzes of it, just loading my brush and slightly tapping the brush. And this will already give you a little bit of like a galaxy effect, but they will kind of blend into the background, so it looks like they're like out of focus. So some like far away galaxy stars like this. Okay, I'm gonna allow this to dry one more time. So this is dry again, and now I want to bring in a little more darkness around the edges. I'm pretty happy with the rest. So I have a bit of a lunar black here, which is a beautiful, also slightly granulating black. Don't want to overdo it with the black. Just kind of want to bring in a bit more darkness here around the edges. And I think I'm gonna mix it with a bit of the imperial purple, so that it's not like just a pitch black. So that's what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna add some water here just along the edges where I know that I want to add more darkness. Doesn't need a lot, you just kind of want to allow a little bit of color flow. Just about like that. And then I will go ahead and grab some of the lunar black here. And I will just go in and add a bit here. If you see that there's not enough water here to make the colors blend, again you can always go back in, give it another spritz of water until you kind of, yeah, get the effect that you want, or achieve like the flow of color that you want. Slightly tilt this again.
It's a new day for me. I feel it in my bones. I feel.
Okay, so this is dry, and I'm pretty happy with how the base looks. So next, I will use a compass, and I have a span here of 6.5 centimeters. And I will just use this to create a circle to use as my guideline here. Okay, you want to put that approximately in the center. Of course you could measure it, but I'm not a measuring person, so I will just go with eyeballing the center here, putting it a little bit more in the upper part of the painting, because I know that down here I want to add some text later. And then I will just go ahead, let's see, approximately, it looks kind of good. And I will just pull my circle here. This is just a guideline, and you maybe will not see this on camera now because it's like the pencil line on a dark surface, on a dark background, but if you do this at home, You will totally see the pencil line, and you can use that as a guide. So I have my guiding circle here. Then you need a ruler. See, I can't get around that ruler. So I have to find a ruler. Okay, so here we go. I have my ruler, and you want to find that center. So I find that center point here, and then I will just make 2 little marks right across, just using the little tip point, needle tip point of my compass here. Then the exact same thing the other way around, finding the top and the bottom. And this is of course a little tricky to see, but if you hold it against the light, you will easily find that little tiny spot there, like that. I'm making 1 little mark here at the top and 1 at the bottom, right on that line, like that. Let me see, yeah. And then doing the same thing in the quarters, exactly on that line, like that, and over here, and then opposite side on the quarters, so that we end up with 8 little marks here, and that's where we put in the moons, the moon phases. And then you can just measure a span of 2 centimeters, or use like a washi tape roll or something to draw in your little moons here. You can use your compass for that as well. I'm just starting here at the top.
I am set free. It's a new day for me, and nothing in this world will interfere. This is my year. I've been watching closely now, been looking for
Like that. So I have my moon phases on here. Again, you will not be able to really see this now, but it totally makes sense, and you will also find the sketch of this in the PDF file with an additional explanation, so you can just go ahead and take a look at that, and that should totally explain the part that you maybe will not be able to fully see at the moment, but that's just a matter of the fact that I'm putting the pencil lines on the dark background, and there's just no way to make this visible for you right now, but I guess it makes sense, right? And it will totally make sense once we start with the next step. Okay, so then I will just go ahead and start coloring in my moons, and I will use my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. You could also use white acrylic paint or white gouache paint. And I will just load my brush, round tip brush, and I will just start here at the bottom with my full moon, because I know that I can completely fill that up with white. And it's helpful to have the brush tip kind of pointing towards the outline. This will give you a better capability of following that pencil line and getting a nice round circular shape with a crisp, clean edge. So I basically start with the outline here, and then afterwards continue to fill in the center, just like that. And then I will just clean my brush with a clean brush. First I'm gonna pull this along that edge here because I want a little bit of variation in that white. And then I'm also gonna use a clean damp brush to softly blend that edge, allowing a bit of the underneath layer to peek through. And this way you instantly like create a beautiful like moon texture on here without a lot of hustle, a lot of work. You can also go back in and lift a bit of the white back off in some areas. Or you could also drop in a bit of additional like purple, for example, just using the color that I have on my palette here, or maybe a bit of that mixed in with some blue, and I could go in and add a bit of it to give it a bit more texture if needed, if wanted. Again, don't make it rocket science, just have some fun with it. So this would be our full moon. I'm gonna allow this to dry, and I can already turn it around and start with the new moon. And the new moon is actually the way it is, right? It is dark, it is yeah, dark black. So what I will do is, since up here I actually have this pretty light spot, which kind of in this case just is a bad circumstance, right? So I will just first of all get this wet a little and add a little bit more darkness here, because this way it kind of looks like it's a full moon, or it could be a full moon, right? But this might not be the case in your piece. This might just be in my piece here, because yeah, it's just it just happened to be be that way, that up here there's that light area, that lighter area. So I first added in a bit more darkness here. Okay, so then I will just go ahead and fill in the the new moon. And since I want it to be like a little bit popping out the background, what I will do is I will just kind of put in like a very watery mix of that white. Just a tiny bit, and then blend this so that you can see that the moon is there, so that it is, so that you kind of, I don't know, see the shape. Yeah, that makes sense. But it is almost invisible, right? It is dark. So I just want a tiny bit of white, like a white rim around the edge here, all along the edge. So just a tiny bit of watery mix of white. Like this. Then blending this a bit more. And like this, okay? And I could also go ahead and also dab in a bit more, like purple, for example, or dark blue. this, so that you have just this tiny halo here, so that you see that there's that new moon. Okay, so then I will just jump in and do the quarters, the first quarter and the third quarter moon. So I will just turn it around and go ahead and start laying in the white here on the right side. So on the light side, actually the lighter side of the moon, just approximately to the halfway point. Like this. Cleaning the brush and then softly blending that edge here. Add in a bit more white if needed. Like this. And then I can also just again with that watery mix, so it's basically like a gray, also pull over that line so that you have that effect of that moon up here, of that new moon, so that you very lightly see that it's actually a full round shape that is just illuminated on one side. Just about like that. Definitely gonna add in a bit more white here over on this side to make that stand out a bit more. Up to that halfway point here. Then next I'm going to turn that around, no, this way around, and do that third quarter moon. Same technique. I'm going to put you in fast forward, you get the idea, I guess.
And I can feel inside of me that this season is mine.
And then I'm just going to go ahead and add in the waxing and waning crescent and gibbous moon. Here we would have like 1/3 of it filled with white. And down here we have like 3/4 of it filled. So this is the last one before the full moon.
Feels so good to be alive, the sun upon my face. Tell you this.
Okay, so we have our basic moon phases painted in, and while I'm letting this dry, first I'm gonna go ahead and add some little splatters of white to the background already to give it a bit of that starburst effect. Just tapping my brush with my finger. This will give you some like larger splatters. And then by tapping your brush onto something else, onto another pen or something, will give you a little bit of finer splatters, almost like a mist, like a nebula. Okay, so next up, now that I have the moon cycle here, I grabbed 2 pages out of an old book that I want to use to do some layering on. And I have printed out, and you can find this in the printable PDF file, okay, in different sizes. Again, you can pick the ones that kind of match your art piece, your art project and size. Of course, you could just leave it as it is if you want to put it in a frame, for example. I could imagine it would look beautiful the way it is. However, I kind of want to turn it into more into like an informational piece, so that you also like learn something about the moon phases and the different energies of the moon phases. So you can print it out, and I have this like title here, In Tune with the Moon, which I want to layer right here in the center of the moon cycle. Then I have the different moon phases written out here, which I want to cut into paper stripes and then adhere them right here to the different moons. Of course, if you're already familiar with the moon phases, you maybe don't want to add the different words here. So it depends on what you want to achieve with your piece, right? But I just wanted to give you that option. And then for down here, I want to put like a little informational like strip down here with the different moon phases, and there you'll find some additional information about the individual phases, whether it's a yin or yang phase, and yes, some keywords of the energies of the different moon phases. Yeah, so that's what we have here, and I think I will just cut this into stripes. I will tear this out, and then layer this on top here. However, before I will do this, I think I will just add a thin layer of watercolor to the paper here. Make sure that you have printed this with a laser printer, because if you printed this with an inkjet printer, you will have problems applying some wet media on top of it, because the ink would bleed. In this case, you want to use something else to add some color to it, maybe some pastel chalks, for example, or an ink pad. That would be an option. However, I used a laser printer. This is just normal printer paper, so I have to be a little bit careful. I don't want to rub like too much with my brush, but I will just go in and add a bit of color here, and I think I will just go with this yeah, light shade of pink that I already used in the background, and I will just apply some color here, just adding it on top of it, very lightly brushing it on, because again it's normal printer paper, so it won't take a lot of yeah, rubbing and working on the paper. So I will just keep that rather simple. I just want to add a bit of color here to give it just a bit of a muted background. I don't want this super bright white paper like that. So putting that aside to dry. And while this dries, I can already go ahead and tear out a base here, like that. And here I just want to ink the edges, so again you could use an ink pad, of course. I will use some watercolor again, just loading my brush with some watercolor here, just using the color that I still have on my palette here from the background, and I will just allow the brush to softly glide along the edge here, over that teared edge. And then I will also ink those edges and ink the edges of those the printouts. Again, using watercolors. Okay, so I got everything prepared. I cut the little words into little stripes here. I also grabbed some washi tape. Not sure if I want to add it or not. I think I'm not sure yet. I'll just see. I will make up my mind as I go. But if you have some washi tape that's kind of matching the theme or the color combination, then totally go for it. I kind of like this one with the zodiac, signs of a zodiac on it, and the background's kind of matching the theme. So I will just assemble this. I'll just use some glue, some Mod Podge, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I'm happy with the way it looks. Then just some little finishing touches. I'm gonna grab my black pen here. I'm gonna do a little bit of outlining here around those boxes. I kind of like to add like a boxy style, a loose scribbly box around those strips, just because for me it kind of looks a little better, and it kind of integrates the words a little bit better into the actual project. Just looks better than simply like gluing it on. But of course that's optional. If you like that look, go for it, and if you don't, then just leave it as it is, as always. Okay, so I like that, and then last but not least, I definitely want to add a couple more splatters. First of all, some juicy bright pink ones, kind of bringing that pink that I already used in the background here a little bit back into the game. So I have that really vibrant pink color here, neon pink watercolor, just to kind of funk it up a little bit. And then I'm just gonna add some little splatters here. Also gonna add a couple larger ones, just by gently touching the paper with a brush. So I'll leave you with some slightly larger splatters. And then definitely just a few tiny white splatters. And then calling this done. And I really like how it turned out, a little in tune with the moon. Yeah, journal spread or informational art piece. Yeah, so I hope it inspired you. I hope you enjoyed the techniques that I shared and enjoyed the overall lesson. I can't wait to see yours. So if you create something inspired by this, make sure to share it in the Facebook group, and also make sure to tag me so that I can take a look at your In Tune with the Moon piece. Yeah, and other than that, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a beautiful day. Have fun with all of the other taster lessons, and yeah, hopefully see you in Lifebook next year. Bye!
Another day is dawning, a new song on the air, a brand new hope.